Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. So I just wanted to, before I start this video, I just want to say that regarding this week's topics, these are just my thoughts that I have observed and kind of just come to a conclusion to based off of recent things that I have seen in media and in articles and on YouTube, and not just recent events that have happened, but just obviously events that have been compiled over the past years. So in relation to cancel culture, cancel culture is pretty much when people, I guess, or the general public points kind of fingers at another public figure and they just decide that, okay, this person is just horrible, anything they do is invalid, and they should so-called be canceled and not be relevant to society anymore. And my problem with cancel culture is that I don't think it actually ends up doing anything productive most of the time. And I think this is because a lot of us are so quick to point fingers at these celebrities or idols or whoever that we fail to look at the dirt under our own fingernails first. Now, some mistakes aren't just mistakes. If they have been repeated over and over again, then I wouldn't really call them mistakes at that point. I would just call them either ignorance or really just deciding that someone doesn't want to change for the better. But we all make honest mistakes sometimes, and maybe it's not because we don't want to learn about something, but it's because we genuinely don't know and we didn't do our research properly, which is somewhat of a fault of our own. But I don't think it means that someone is just a horrible person altogether if they just don't know about something. If they get called out for it and they take accountability, which I will get to later in this video about, I'll discuss more about accountability. But if they take accountability and they try to learn from it, that's growth. However, I think we all fail to realize that, yeah, we all have made mistakes in the past too. No one comes born into this world with their set of morals or, just knowing everything or knowing who they're going to be or what they stand for. That's like a trial and error process throughout life. So I think before we just randomly start pointing fingers at, I don't want to say randomly, but before we just start condemning someone right away, we need to analyze the situation better first and kind of look into ourselves as well and realize, okay, well, I could have made that honest mistake too. And secondly, I think that cancel culture, it's not always effective because it just becomes mob mentality. And sometimes half the time we cancel somebody is because it's a trend. We might not even know what the wrong thing they did was or know the past history behind all of their actions. But if our friends are like, oh, they're canceled, so we're not, supporting them anymore. We're not going to buy their products anymore, watch their media anymore. Then we're like, yeah, we're going to cancel them too because everyone's doing it. And that's not really helping anyone, to be honest. And I think that the thing with cancel culture is it's constantly being done a lot in this day and age. I feel like we cancel some new person every week, and it's just because stories always keep coming out, or the media is always focused on this cancel culture thing as well because they're profiting a lot off of it. If they constantly have a controversial story, whether it's completely true or not, they get the exposure that they need as well. And the thing is that I think sometimes, of course, there are positives to calling out someone, but I don't want to call it cancel culture at that point. I want to just call it, calling someone out and not idolizing them anymore. And I'll also get further into the whole idolizing thing when I talk about accountability. But the thing is, I think we still need to call out people when they do something wrong, but I don't think we should call it cancel culture or make it this whole thing of it's cancel culture. Because, like I said, I think cancel culture just becomes mob mentality. And I think sometimes even when we see someone doing something wrong and it's genuinely the wrong thing to do, I feel like sometimes we're even reluctant to cancel someone, let's say, because we can't face the reality of our own thoughts, especially if we've really idolized this person for a long time. And even if they actually aren't who they end up being, I think we're actually reluctant to do that because we've built this idea around them, we've put them on a pedestal, and we're just like, oh, well, they can't do anything wrong, so we ignore it. And sometimes when someone actually needs to be called out, they don't get called out. So For me, I feel like cancel culture just creates controversy for some time. The media profits off of it, but then everything's back to normal. I feel like the people that actually truly need to be canceled, they are still successful. Nothing is happening to them. They're still, going about their lives, their businesses are doing well, etc., etc. And yeah, maybe they get canceled for a little bit, but then everything's back to normal. So, like I said, I feel like this is another reason why cancel culture doesn't actually benefit the greater good. And I also want to say that I feel like when cancel culture comes into the picture, most of the time someone gets called out when it's convenient for everyone else to call them out. And I say this because I think sometimes we're afraid of being the lone voice of reason. And I see this a lot with, celebrities or people with a platform of influence when they get called out and then things get dug up from their past and then people are like, see, I knew they were shady all along, but they never voice it because they're afraid that their friends or whoever is going to look down upon them. They're going to get hate comments and things like that. And that's why I say cancel culture is part of it, is the whole conveniency of it. Everyone starts canceling someone when it's convenient for them, when they know that everyone's going to jump on board with them, rather than back in the day when maybe them so-called canceling someone would have actually made a difference. And I'm just going to take a couple of examples here. Like right now with, like I talked about in my last series video with the whole nepotism issue, now people are calling out nepotism a lot in the Bollywood industry, but why now? Nepotism has always been an issue. So now everyone's jumping onto that bandwagon because media is still all over the whole suicide case, and they're getting their voice heard, or they're getting their influence out there. So again, it's like that conveniency of canceling someone. And then part of that whole cancel culture thing too is a lot of times people will just complain and complain, but nothing will actually be done about it. And I think also at the end of the day, it kind of becomes an issue of, let's say someone did see that something shady was happening with that person years ago, but now they're like, see, I was right all along. And then it becomes this competition of, I was right, you were wrong, you didn't see what I saw. And like I said, that doesn't really help anyone at the end of the day. It's just this whole battle of so-called, right versus wrong in terms of I was right and you were wrong. And then I also want to talk about jealousy because it's still an ongoing hot topic on YouTube, but with the beauty community in YouTube, there's now this whole controversy over one beauty YouTuber influencer, Jeffree Star, and he also owns his own makeup company, and his friend Shane Dawson being basically called out for a lot of the things that they have said and done, especially regarding the whole scandal involving another beauty YouTuber, James Charles, who also he was really prominent during that time. He was rising to fame a lot, and he was only 19. And this came from jealousy because Jeffree Star, I think he's in his early 30s, and so is Shane Dawson. And while they in themselves are very successful YouTubers, they couldn't handle that a 19-year-old was getting the kind of traction that they maybe would have wanted when they were 19. And that's where I was I thought it was really disgusting because it's okay, of course no one is completely innocent in this story, but why are you, an early 30-year-old, so concerned and so jealous of a 19-year-old? Why aren't you encouraging it? Why do you have to feel like you have to bring this person down for you to be successful? You already are successful, in a lot of people's eyes. You have your own makeup brand, you are very rich, you have all these things, but why do you feel like you need to take this person down? And that made me think about, I think this doesn't just apply to, people with a lot of influence, but I feel like in a lot of our lives, we're it's this competition thing, it's this rat race thing, okay, to get to the top or to climb to the top of this corporate ladder or whatever, you need to be sneaky, or you need to, make sure you're better than this person or overriding this person. And it's why do we always feel like we need to take someone down to succeed? It's not necessary. And this is where I come into the idea of there is room for everyone. It's just at different levels. Now, I'm not going to completely lie here and be everyone can become famous, because fame is something that I feel there's a factor of luck involved there. But I also want to say that fame isn't the end-all be-all marker of success. When I say there's room for everyone, I mean that there's room for everyone to have a purposeful and happy life. And that doesn't necessarily mean being famous or being like very rich. But I feel like a lot of us are conditioned to think that, yeah, that those two things are what there's room for. And if there's not enough room for everyone to be up there. And yeah, I agree. There's maybe not enough room for everyone to be famous and to be uber rich. But there is room for everyone to have a purposeful, happy life. And this is where I come into the concept of fame versus passion, which I did talk about in my series video, where if someone keeps chasing fame, it's a never-ending rat race. Like, you're always going to, once you get one level of fame, you're going to want to go to the next level and the next level and the next level. And that's not to say that people don't know how to handle fame. There are obviously people with influence and celebrities that have handled it very well, but it's because they started with passion. They started with the drive for a journey, and along the way they happened to get fame. It wasn't because they were just chasing fame from the beginning, I feel like. And I feel like when you chase passion, it's not really a chase when you do something out of passion. It's a lifestyle. You do it because that's your life, that's what gives you probably your identity, and you're happy in it. And in terms of jealousy as well, as an artist myself, I always find it so sad when I see other artists bringing other artists down for no reason at all, because for me, anything, especially art, is something where when you have a collaborative effort in it, it's a beautiful thing. I feel like artists need to encourage each other in that sense, to want to collaborate, to want to help each other get to the next level. And I don't mean necessarily fame, but I mean, like, to promote their work, to make people realize that there is a diversity of art available. And I feel like when artists bring each other down like this, it's kind of like, it's shameful to art in itself, because it's like the purpose of art is to share and create and to make the public aware of many things, whether you do art and express social issues or abstract ideas. It's an idea of togetherness, and bringing each other down doesn't support that idea at all. And last but not least, in this video, I want to talk about accountability. And I'm going to take an example again of another YouTuber, and this happened recently as well. And she's actually one of my favorite YouTubers, and I used to watch her a lot. Her name is Jenna Marbles, and she recently made a video talking about how she is, I don't know if she's permanently quitting YouTube, but she's leaving YouTube. And a lot of people are like, oh my goodness, but she's so unproblematic and everything. And that's what she was talking about, where she was like, everyone, there's been so many scandals going on in the YouTube community, and everyone, I haven't been linked to any of them, and everyone's like, oh yeah, she's like our unproblematic queen, she can't do any wrong, and look at her, like, she's not involved in any scandals. And she said that makes me feel really scared, because it makes me feel like I have to live up to this expectation of perfection all the time, when I'm not a perfect person. And it's not to say that she's a terrible person, but she said that she's also done things in the past where, she doesn't feel very proud of them, and she called it out herself. Like, no one called her out on it. She did it from her side because she truly felt bad about it, and she said that nobody's perfect, and to make me this unproblematic queen, it kind of erases the fact that I am human too, and I'm prone to mistakes. But she has changed from that, and she said, every mistake that I make, I try to learn from it. If someone is calling me out for something, I try to take it positively, because it's to further educate myself and to further become the best person I can be. And I understand where she's coming from, because nobody is perfect. And when we put that pressure on someone, it does really mess with them, and it makes them feel like they can't just be human. And we've all made mistakes before too. Like, making mistakes is a part of being human. That's part of growth. And I think another thing that we need to stop doing as a society is putting people on pedestals. Yes, we can look up to people, we can be inspired by people, but we don't need to put them on a pedestal, because that makes them this idea of, perfection. And like you guys might know if you've watched my previous video, I don't believe in the idea of perfection, because it's not possible. No human is perfect. And when we put someone on that pedestal, we put that pressure on them, and it's not good for us, it's not good for them, it's really not good for anyone. And last but not least, I want to end this video by saying that making mistakes, like I said, is part of being human. And that's part of growth and choosing to change. But we shouldn't choose to change because of the fear of being called out. And I've seen this a lot in a lot of people when they apologize or make apology videos on YouTube. They only do so after they've been called out, not when it was the most necessary or they could have done it right away. And this is where I say that when you apologize just out of fear of being called out, you haven't truly learned anything. I feel like you're just afraid because you're afraid someone's going to start pointing fingers at you. You don't feel that intrinsic factor of, I can't sleep at night, like I feel horrible. Like that conscience of feeling bad is not there. And that is very important. Only when you have that conscience of feeling bad and taking accountability from your side, that's where growth happens. And that's what accountability means to me. It means deciding to change because you can't look at yourself in the mirror and feel okay. You think that you need to do something and to change so that you can look at yourself in the mirror and feel like, okay, I am being the best person I can be. Not because you're afraid of being called out or being looked at as in a certain way, or you're afraid of, having fingers pointed at you. So I hope this message resonated with you guys, and if you guys have any thoughts on this as well, or if there's any stories that you guys have heard, then please do leave it in the comments below. I would love to read them. And if you guys have any other topic suggestions as well, then please do leave them in the comment section below, or you can DM me on Instagram. I hope you guys have a lovely day and a lovely week, and I'll see you guys soon.